Start recording right now. So this will be available later on if you'd like a copy of it. So first of all, thank you folks very much again for showing up today. I really appreciate it. One of my true passions in this world is showing people how to create online training and how to deliver their expertise to other people. I see this as sort of an altruistic goal where I like to see other people share this knowledge and kind of become this global pool of information. And so it's a passion of mine. It's something I really love doing. And I wanted to create this course to really make it easier for other people to start their journey into building an online course. So I guess the very first thing I'd like to start off with today is, who am I, right? So my name is Andrew Chestnut. I'm an educational engineer. And so what does an educational engineer do? So if you imagine going to have your taxes done, right? And there was this old joke years ago where you'd go to your accountant, you'd hand them your box of receipts and go, here, you figure it out at tax time. So that's what I do with training. I take people's existing material, they give me their shoebox of material and say, here, you deal with it, come up with a course for it. I also go through and we'll go through what I do specifically, but in just a moment as we get through the course, but I also then sort it out, try to see if there's any gaps. We'll go into being an expert and what some of the drawbacks of being an expert in a specific topic are. And we'll also, so that's mainly what I do. And then I'll actually deploy the course. I have videographers on my team as well who go through and video them. It's sort of an all-encompassing kind of get you up and going training wheels through creating a course. So I've been an educational engineer for the past 15 years. I started with a large bank back in 2005. So yeah, I got to watch that whole thing come crashing down from the inside. It was sort of an interesting experience. I've mainly been in the banking industry. That's just where I've been. But I have gone back and I've also done some things for K-12. I've also done some higher ed courses, helped a college rebuild their online business courses. This was many years ago, so this was pre-COVID, but it's now even more important for that information to get out. Okay, so what are we going to cover today? So what we're going to cover today is structuring a course. This is one of the bigger questions that I get from people is just how to structure a course. We're going to get into some of the pitfalls of it and how to do it properly. Second thing we're going to cover is going to be, I apologize, slide design. Okay. Some of the things that I've seen in my career that have worked well, some other things that have not worked well, and how to do that properly. We're also going to go into coaching. So I want to fit a little bit more into coaching products. I like coaching. I usually, with my clients, will go into coaching, and I do it because I like the practical application of it. We'll get into the details in a moment. I'm going to get into how to deploy your course. This is probably, between this and actually sitting down to write the course, are the two biggest problems I have seen with clients. And we'll get into what those are. And then selling your course. Because at the end of the day, we are into this to make some money. And there needs to be some value proposition for both sides, for yours and your learners when you're creating a course. So we'll go into some of the pricing models and do's and don'ts from that as well. First thing I'd like to just do very quickly here, see, it's an echo. So what I'd like to do here is to say that if there's anything wrong, please use the chat. I am monitoring. If you see me look down to the side, that's what I'm doing, is monitoring the chat. What I'd like to see is, I do see that there is an echo going on. So is anyone else having difficulty hearing me? I'd like you to put that into the chat, please. Okay, perfect. Just want to make 100% sure. The reason I was on a couple of minutes late today is something that even happens to the most experienced of us. I had a camera that didn't work correctly. I had to swap one out. So just wanted to make sure that everything was working well for you and you could understand the material I'm going through. Awesome. If you have any questions as you go through, please use the chat or use the question and answer functionality. I am monitoring that as we go through. There will be enough time at the end for me to cover all of your questions as well. Excellent. All right, so let's get into structuring a course. So the first thing, and you'll notice when I started my course, I started with a list of things. These are the things that you're going to learn in this course today. Setting course objectives is really important. It first of all structures the course, so that way you're not trying to dump too much information onto a learner. Something that I always do, I've just had it ingrained into my head that you always set course objectives. The second thing it allows us to do is it allows us to it allows us to be able to see if there's any gaps. That's how I use it. I want to see if there's any gaps in learning. I want to see if something doesn't make sense. And finally, when I was doing when I'm doing higher ed courses or K-12 courses or certification courses, I want to make sure that I can prove that a learner has learned the information I set forth to teach them. So with the objective, when I say that today you're going to learn how to structure a course, there won't be a test. It's okay for those that may get triggered with that. So there's no test involved with this. But at the end, I want to be able to test, did you actually learn how to structure a course? So that's the first thing that we will always do is set your objectives. The other thing that setting objectives does is a technique called priming. Priming is a brain technique, and this is a nerd kind of thing of mine. My mother's a psychologist, so of course I like to nerd out on the psychology of learning. And so what priming is if I were to give you the word switch, and have you just get as many different synonyms for the word switch as you could find. If we wrote them all on a board and I came up with them, you would come up with about 9 is what you would be able to remember on that first time seeing it, not seeing it again. 9 is the best I have ever seen anyone do, and that person has a particularly good memory. Average is about 5 to 6. If I said to you, give me a color, okay, red. Give me a car, Ford. And I went through a list. I watched a group of people actually do this. They had 16 of those. They could remember every single one randomly. So when somebody said, t-shirt, they would be able to come back, or type of clothing, t-shirt, they would be able to come back randomly from that list. First recital, which means they had never seen it again. They just saw it once. What we do when we say, okay, give me a color, is we're priming someone. They're getting ready to accept a color into their brain. So that's what objectives do as well, is they trigger that priming that then allows people to accept more information. And you tend to get a really high retention rate with priming. So that's the other really great thing as far as objectives. That's why they're so important. I also use objectives when, if you've seen the advertising, well, you did because you're here. If you've seen the advertising, you notice that I put my course objectives in my advertising. It was a really easy way to see what you're going to expect when you come here. Okay. The second part of this is that you are the expert. Now, that seems like a really dumb statement to make, because you wouldn't be teaching this course if you didn't have if you didn't have expertise in your thing. Most of my clients have a minimum of 10 years experience in their fields. But what we do as experts, and I just had a conversation with this the other day with a client of mine, and we were talking, and he's like, I can't figure out why this person can't understand what I'm saying. And I had to tell him that it's because you're the expert. We have, you have steps A through S, and you can jump from A through S. The rest of us mere mortals have to go A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay. So as an expert, and this is one of the indicators of true mastery in a subject, is first, you're able to jump steps. You're able to jump from one specific hypothesis to another. You're able to form these very easily. Okay. The second part of one of the second things in mastery is being able to come up with something, create something different out of information that isn't very kind of piecemeal. But the main what we want to hit here, though, is you are the expert. It's difficult for experts to step back for a second and say, am I really getting everything? I alluded at the beginning when I was going into the objectives that one of the issues that I see so often with my clients is they'll miss steps because they're an expert and they have difficulty seeing that. So remembering that you are the expert, that you've spent many years, decades in a lot of cases, building your set of knowledge. So usually what I recommend is either you go to somebody like myself, that's what educational engineers do. We can spot those trends from a mile away. Go to a novice. A couple of the courses that I have is I send them to my virtual assistant, and she has been a trainer, so she knows what the industry is, but she may not have expertise in what I'm doing. And if it makes sense to her, that makes sense. Yeah. If it's a higher level course, or it's something that has a very specific level of expertise that's required in it, I would go to somebody that may be a junior member of your team or entry level who has a base level of understanding. Good example, if you're a programmer, if you have a very advanced level of programming knowledge, what you may want to do is go to a junior programmer who's new. You need that base level sometimes, that base level of knowledge. So maybe a junior member of some group. I'm a member of a couple of different masterminds, and they have a variety of different types of people in them. And so what I'll do is I'll sometimes go to them and go, okay, so those people that are just starting off, can you take a look at this? I'd like you to just look through this material and see if it makes sense to you. The next part, and this is one I see so often, smaller chunks are better. The smaller you can put a piece of information, the better. So we live in the YouTube Sesame Street generation. And if you think about it, if you're sitting through a YouTube ad or a YouTube course or YouTube video, you're going to start fading about 14 minutes. That's what the science shows is the longest I can hold any person's attention for an extended period is about 14 minutes. 2 to 6 minutes is the sweet spot that I'm finding. So whenever I build a course, a video course, it's always done in 2 to 6 minute blocks, just little chunks. So the first reason I do that is people won't pay attention for longer than about 2 to 6 minutes. The second reason I do that is I break it down into smaller granular topics. So if somebody needs to come back and get more information, they can. It's easy for them to rewind back in the course or to get that one little piece of information that they need. So when I'm designing courses, smaller is definitely better. The very last one, to test or not to test. Without bad Shakespeare references going on in there. There's 2 types of tests that I use on a regular basis. There's the standard quiz exam. That's something that we've all been used to. It's really good at assessing whether or not somebody has learned what you've set out to learn. That's where the objectives come in. Your objectives will then say what is taught on that test. They're generally a lot longer. They're generally a lot more academically rigorous, which is just really a super fancy way of saying hard. There's actually an entire art behind building test questions. Let's say you have a multiple choice question. I go down rabbit holes sometimes. I kind of like them. There's this, if you think about a multiple choice question, there's 4 answers. One's right. The other 3 are called distractors. There's actually a specific way to write distractors to be able to prove that somebody knows what they're doing. So that's why back in class, you probably had, there was 1 right answer and the 3 most common wrong answers. So those are the types of quiz and tests that you'd be used to. There's also knowledge checks. And to be very honest, I use these more often. Knowledge checks are generally very simple. They don't need to be difficult at all. They're not usually graded. They're not usually very long. I don't think I've ever written one that wasn't multiple choice. What I'm trying to do is to lead the learner on a learning experience with them, meaning I want them to have to pick a right answer from a series of rather easy answers. By making them do that, reiterates in their brain, causes their brain to take the information I just gave them and store it even better. Again, it's like repetition. So sometimes people have learned stuff through rote memory, which is just keep repeating it over and over and over again. Having a knowledge check will do that as well. Generally not graded, more just to give feedback to make sure that that person understood. If they can answer the question correctly, they know that they understood it. So usually knowledge checks I use in a lot of different places. Quizzes and tests I generally only use if the course is going to be accredited for like college courses, if it's a certification course, if there's some other reason why I to use them, I'll use quizzes. But generally I like to stick to knowledge checks. I hated tests as a kid. So honestly, yeah, that's probably the other reason I don't use them very often. All right, so now that we've gotten through how to actually structure the course and kind of get the skeleton down, if you will, now we want to move on to slide design. This is an area that is particularly is a focus of mine because I've seen a lot of things done. I see it in academia as well. So it's not just it's not just us common folks too. It's in college courses and high school courses. Slide design is incredibly important. What you're doing is using slide design for visual learners so that they have another set of triggers, if you will, to learn the material you're learning. So first thing to do, and this is more just a graphic design side of things, is to match your corporate branding. If you notice the slides that I'm showing you, they all have my corporate branding on them. The color scheme is similar. You can look at my logo, look at the slide design, and make that connection. Any person in marketing will tell you that definitely having some sort of a common connection between looks nice, looks real. And the other thing is bad slide design or not following your corporate branding will throw off your learners. So it's not just from a branding standpoint. Have you ever looked at a PowerPoint that somebody was doing online and it was really different than their logo and it just gets really distracting? Having that common look and feel is one less thing that can distract a learner during your course. So corporate branding is a big thing. The second thing I do is less is often more. This is the biggest rule that I see people violate. So I have a singer up there because you should be the singer. Your slides should be your backup singers. You don't want to cram a huge amount of information into your slides. And the way that this manifests is, I saw somebody a while ago, a friend of one of my clients, came to with a slide deck and said, what do you think of it? And it was, I think it was 20 slides of 14-point bullet points, just walls of text. And with my most polite voice I could use, said, maybe let me take a look at this. I'll get back to you in a few days, and turned it into something more visual. We get this tendency where we just want to put as much information as possible. With slide design, that actually will end up causing the learner to read your slides and not pay attention to your face. You want them to listen to what you're saying. So what I would do is if you do have a lot of information, because there are courses that I teach, I do a stock course that I'm creating for a client now, there is a huge amount of information that we have to cover in it. A lot of technical jargon, a lot of detailed information. I created a workbook. And so if you need to do that, create it into a workbook. And put all of that information so they can look at it later. I want my learners focused on me when I'm teaching a course. The next one is to tell a story, and I want to get into a little bit of the brain science on this. We are wired to be emotional people. It's just embedded in our brain. We have a lot of different structures in there. They actually found, I think it was about 10 years ago, that there are brain cells that go all the way throughout our brain that just register emotion, and that's what they do. Telling stories is the greatest way to take knowledge, mix it with that emotion, and transfer it to a learner. If you notice, as we're going through this course, I'm telling you stories about things that have happened with clients, and that's how you learn. It's that experiential learning. Kids are really good at this. What does a kid do? They want to see what's going, they want to try it, they want to get engaged, they want to engage other people in learning. By telling a story, you can trigger that kind of communal effort, if you will, on learning. So now that we've gotten through the course and we're going through just the basics of slide design, how to make it look right, the next step, and this is one that I really love creating this type of learning with people, and it's one of those things where I just love this type of learning. I just realized I have the wrong slide. I want to apologize for that. Let's try this again. So, without knowledge, action is useless. And knowledge without action is futile. Now, how do I do this? Online learning is a beautiful way to create coaching courses as well. So coaching courses, to be able to, I can teach you everything I ever wanted to know online, right? I could just dump this information and say, great, here, go use it. But you probably remember about 50% of it. And trying to get that step from point A to point B, trying to actually apply it is going to be difficult. So what we do is coaching programs with that. And that's one thing that I'll do with a lot of my clients. So coaching programs. You can do one-on-one mentoring. We'll get to this when we get to pricing, but one-on-one mentoring needs to be very expensive because there's only one of you and cloning isn't a thing yet, although I'm working on it. I have a bet with a couple of clients of mine that we're going to pool all of our resources together and come up with clones so that way we can, we think it would be helpful. But coaching is, one-on-one coaching should be very, very small, limited. Group coaching is really the way that I generally will go with others. So group coaching is 10, 15, 20 people, however large of a group that you think you can handle in one sitting. You meet once, twice a month. It's going to change depending on what your topic is and what your strategy is. And you get a group of people together and you go over either specific parts of the learning. One way that a client of mine does their learning is we have 2 a month. So the first and third Wednesday of every month, they'll do coaching. The first Wednesday is on a specific topic from the courses that we've created. The third Wednesday is how did I apply that? So it's an accountability call of what trouble have I had applying that over the past 2 weeks. So that's group coaching. Group coaching is generally at a bit of a lower price point. It allows you to clone yourself. So instead of doing one-on-one coaching with individual people, I now can do coaching with a significantly larger group of people. Okay. So again, one-on-one coaching, I usually recommend to my clients that you never have more than maybe 5, 7 max one-on-one coaching clients. And the price points we charge for those is pretty significant. So it's $2,000, $1,000 to $3,000 an hour is generally what we're doing for the coaching. We want that to be a very high value. We'll get to how to price things in a little bit. Okay. All right. One of my favorite things here, online courses versus e-learning. Yes, there is a difference. So whenever we hear e-learning, we think online courses. Whenever we think online courses, we think e-learning. There is a difference between the two of them. Online e-learning is a type of online course. When we talk about e-learning in our industry, we're talking about something that's very interactive. We're talking about these courses are generally expensive to develop because for every 1 hour of finished course, it's at least 30 hours of work. It can get up to 200 hours of work. These are things that can be very expensive to develop. So some of the buzzwords we hear on e-learning are things like gamification. I've done some with drag and drop. You can get all the way to the level of video games as far as learning are concerned, but that's e-learning. Online learning is just any course that is delivered online. Most of what I do, just because it's always a balance between client's price point and what we want to get across to our learners. And so for online learning, I generally will do video, like short 2 to 6 minute videos, like we said earlier, shorter the better, 2 to 6 minutes videos and a workbook and a coaching program involved with it too. So online learning or e-learning is a type of online learning, but they aren't synonymous. There is a slight difference between what they are. The second thing I always see with exploring the course is finding an LMS. LMS stands for Learner Management System, and these are the systems that we deploy courses with. There are a ton of them. When I first started, I think there were like 4. Now there are literally hundreds of learner management systems out there. And so which one do I choose? So to give a couple of names out there, these are ones that I've used over the years that I really appreciate. So Teachable is one. I like the fact that they give video content. They cannot do e-learning, so that is one of the drawbacks to it, but it does have a coaching course. It does have a coaching component to it as well, so I can get my course plus coaching. If your website uses WordPress, you can use what's called LearnDash. It will do the same thing. It can handle e-learning. One of the things you want to take into consideration when you're choosing one of these learner management systems, and it's one of the biggest, so price is going to be one of the bigger considerations. The second consideration is, do I want to use e-learning? Not every learner management system will allow e-learning. There's a course, you'll hear this buzzword, and I just want to put it out there for you so that you'll understand kind of what this term is. SCORM is the file format we use for e-learning. And so I know LearnDash is SCORM compliant. You want something that's SCORM compliant if you're going to use e-learning. Again, for most people, unless you're a corporation or unless there's a compelling reason to use it, you're probably not going to be using e-learning. You really just need something that's going to put up videos, something that will allow you to put documentation, and something that will allow you to see whether or not your learners have completed your course. So that's one thing I wanted to show, again, e-learning versus online learning. That's something that I have been seeing recently, and I wanted to bring it up while we're on the course here, just so that people understand there is a difference. So now that you've created your absolutely amazing course, what do you do with it, right? So selling your course online, because I would love to be in a world where we could all just come together and share information, but unfortunately, my utility companies wouldn't really allow that. My mortgage company would be a bit annoyed with me. So we have to sell our course. Pricing. Don't undervalue yourself. And I'm going to say that one more time. Don't undervalue yourself. What you do when you create a course that is way too inexpensive, you're actually doing you and your learners a disservice. And let me tell you a story about this. I went to a workshop a few years ago and was talking to the leader, the person who created this thing, before it started. Now, there were supposed to be 200 people at this. They had sold 150 tickets. Tickets were $2,000 a piece. That's where they started, and they went up from there. So the last 50 people, he's like, I've got these 50 seats. We've already paid for the food. We've already paid for the room. I'm just going to give them away at a local association who would be interested in this. I'm just going to give away these 50 tickets. Out of those 50 tickets they gave away, only half showed up. And of that half, absolutely not a single person did anything with the information they learned. They literally got a $2,000 value and did nothing with it. But every person that paid $2,000 for that course went out and really did amazing things with it. And I'm not just saying that, I've seen a lot of what these people have done, and it truly is amazing. So there has to be some level of value. So that's where it comes in for your learners. If they don't have skin in the game, they're not going to go out and actually use this information. The second thing, as far as learning is concerned, and as far as the price points are concerned as well, is not to undervalue yourself too. You've put a huge amount of information, a huge amount of effort into creating your craft. If you've spent 10, 15, 20, 30 years in your industry, there is a lot of equity built up in that. Another really good story, Pablo Picasso was at a restaurant one day, and somebody came up to him and said, can you just draw me a picture on the back of a cocktail napkin, drew it for him, did a very nice picture, gave it to him, and then said that it would cost some, to what the person thought, astronomical sum, some very large amount of money. The guy turns to him and goes, it took you 5 minutes to do that. And Picasso turns to the guy and says, well, it took me 30 years to learn how to do that in 5 minutes. We often think that we often trade hours for dollars. And so we think that there's a certain amount of money that I have to charge, and I can't go over that because I haven't spent this many hours in it. We don't take into consideration the fact that we have spent 15 years in my career building up a lot of equity in it. So therefore, I bring 15 years worth of experience to the table, something a little bit different than hourly. So if we get ourselves out of that mindset of, I can't charge a whole lot for it, charge what you're worth. Don't undervalue yourself. I had a mentor of mine the other night. It was funny, we were talking, and he said, do you really want the clients that will underpay? And it made sense to me because, do I really want to take on a client that is willing to undervalue me? And the answer was no. This was my answer to him, but that was it. So don't undervalue yourself. The second thing is, well, I love webinars. Just like I am doing right now, this is one of the greatest ways to get your course out there, right? Webinars will build you as an authority. So probably at least half the people on this call had no idea who I was before you started on this, right? Kind of general, maybe you might have seen my face on LinkedIn, see my non-beard face. I've got to get my headshots up on redone. So, but you now know more about me. You now know more about my expertise, and I've built myself as an authority. So webinars are a great way to build yourself as an authority. What they also do is give you an idea of what to expect. I have another client who does very high level financials. And what he teaches is very difficult for people to understand because it's so different than anything they have ever seen before. So if I were to ask them to go into a course for $497, by the way, the sales probably wouldn't be there because people didn't understand what it meant or what they were going to get for that. So giving people a preview of what to expect shows them the value that you bring to the table. I can learn anything on YouTube. This kind of a thing. This is the world we're in. By building yourself as an authority and showing the value, the unique value proposition is what salespeople use when is the term that they use for it is the unique value proposition. I can then show my consumer why they should attend my course, why they should take it, why they should pay for it, why they should have a coaching program with me. The other side as well is giveaways. So this goes back to the olden days when you had, used to get like pens, like I've got one here from Caesars. So you get pens and various handouts and brochures and things. Giveaways keep you top of mind. So there's a few things with giveaways. First of all, giveaways must provide some sort of value. The easiest way I have learned to create these is the top 5 tips to blank. So I have one top 5 tips to better PowerPoints. Top 5 tips for more engaging e-learning. The other term that's sometimes used for these is listicles. So it's an article with a list in it. They're big around the internet right now. So I figured I would let you guys know that's generally the same thing. Something to hand to my potential clients and say, oh, by the way, here's something for you. It gives them value. They can take something from it, but it also keeps me top of mind and goes back to building authority. Because that's really what we're trying to do is to differentiate ourselves. Remember I said that we can learn anything we wanted to on YouTube. Quick story about that. My mother's basement flooded. I'm in Buffalo, New York, and we have like, I think an inch of topsoil and then clay. So our basements flood regularly and our sump pump went out and it flooded. And so what I ended up having to kind of dig her out and do all of these things. And so it was just a hot mess, but so there's sometimes when you're doing a course, and I'm just going to be really honest with you. And so if you ever get to this point, and I've told this to clients before, where you get to a point in a course where you've completely lost track, it happens to even the best of us. And I just want to put that forward to you. So it's all good, folks. So yeah, there was a point to that story. I want to apologize for that. So let's go to giveaways. If you want to give a giveaway, the top 5 tips, things like that. Okay. So again, I'm trying to build myself as an authority. That's my major thing. The real story I was trying to tell you there was she went to YouTube and figured it out, but she figured it out for herself how to fix it, and we got it done very quickly. But that's where that story was going. I want to apologize. All right, so let's recap and tell you what we've learned so far. So we learned about structuring a course and what to do and what not to do. Okay. Again, you're the expert. Make sure that you break this down into chunks that other people can understand. Slide design. Key takeaways I'd like you to take away, or key takeaways I'd like you to take from this is, please don't create a course with a wall of text. Okay, that's one of the worst things that you can do. You won't retain any of the information. Learners won't retain it. So nice, easy, simple, visual. You notice I have a picture and a couple of bullet points. That's the way to do this. Coaching programs are a great way to allow learners to take the information you just learned and apply it. Coaching can also be a really great way to hold somebody accountable as well. So for coaching courses, it holds them accountable for making the change that they want to do. Deploying your course, learning management systems. There is a lot of them out there. I gave a couple of my recommendations. There's a bunch that are quite good as well. What you want to really look at is to make sure that they're usable, to make sure that they are easy to deploy, and there's always going to be a cost factor. I think Teachable right now is $1,000 a year, and I think LearnDash is similar. So they're not bad. If you think about that you're not selling a course for $20, you're selling it for a few hundred, you can make your money back pretty quickly on those. And then selling your course. And the one key takeaway I can give you on selling your course is please, please do not undervalue yourself. I would rather have one $5,000 client than 50 $100 clients. You tend to get a higher quality. And these are people that have put skin into the game. They have shown you that they want to learn the information you're learning. They're not just there to just show up. They want to learn. It's like, think about if you've gotten something for free. Do you really value it? I don't care if it's a free television. Do you really value it? No, you don't. If you put money forward, the value will come from it. So now that we're finished, I would like to see if there are any questions in the Zoom chat or in the Q&A. Would you do me a favor? If you have any questions from what we just covered today, I'm going to take a second here to answer anything else, and then I've got a special offer for you folks. This is one of those moments where I was teaching a class once, and I just stood at the front of the class and go, Bueller, Bueller. And not a single person in the class got this. And I realized that most of them were fresh out of high school, had no idea what I was talking about, and felt very, very old at that moment. Okay, so where should you start with objectives and pricing? So objectives, the best place to start with objectives, we'll go there first, is think about the task that you're trying to teach. Go through the steps and come up with high level, just bullet points. These are the things I want to teach. Just brainstorm it first. This is my bullet point list of things I want to show. Go back through that, weed out anything that you think is extra. Send it past your person. For me, it was my VA. Send it back to somebody with some basic mastery, but doesn't have to be, send it by your apprentice or whoever it happens to be. Say what information you think they might. Start with that. It sounds like a non-answer, it really isn't. As you start through this process of sitting down and bullet pointing things, you will start to identify some of the key issues that you're going to run into, or I have too much information here. Maybe I need to break this up into 3 courses. It starts to make more sense when you just sit down and bullet point, just by that simple fact alone. Really helps. So pricing, where do you start on pricing? I'm going to be really blunt. I would not start on a course that's any less than $200. Most of my courses start at $500 and go up. And what it is that's enough of a value proposition where I am giving great value, but it's not so much as to break the bank. So that's generally where I start with pricing, and you'll see that in a second. How do you get the emails to invite to this webinar? So if you signed up with this webinar, I have your email address. You're on our email list now. I am planning on doing more of these webinars. So what we'll do is we'll keep you up to date on those. So thanks, Mitch. I really appreciate your question. We'll get, you'll see I will also send out an email later on with a recording of this as well, with a link to a recording, so you'll have that too. Any other questions? All right. So let's move forward. And I'd like to invite all of you as well too. In the middle of December, I'm going to be doing a Build a Course Bootcamp. So what this is going to do is this is going to take you from this basic course now, and we're actually going to sit down and go through a process called road mapping. This is what I do with all of my all my new clients, or whenever they come up with a new course. We start with a roadmap. And what a roadmap is a guiding document that takes all of the information that we just went through, puts it into one main document, and that way you can move forward and create your course from there. It's like a business plan for your course. So we will do that in a group setting. I am limiting the number of people that can be in this because anything larger just gets unwieldy for me and I can't give the attention that's necessary. So we are going to start doing that. Let me put the link in the chat for you. So that way you will have this. I'm also going to be sending this out via text in the near future as well. So let's make sure. There's the link if you'd like to sign up for it. Again, it'll be Friday, December 18th. We're going to spend 3 hours together. And what I will do is handhold you through the process of creating that course. So just like we asked how do I come up with the objectives? How do I come up with pricing? We're going to answer those together as a group. There will be a workbook involved. And by the end of that process, you will have a workbook. You will have a mapped out course. It's going to show you exactly what videos you need to create. The price points are there. Usually when I do a road mapping session, I also go into a break-even point. So it shows you how much money you're going to get back. Generally, I can break people even in about 6 months is the most I would ever do. Okay. So I would love it if you guys would join me for that as well. It's going to be a fun time. I always love these interactive courses that aren't just sit and listen like this is today. It will be completely interactive. I always love teaching courses like this because I can see other people's ideas. It turns into what's this whole mastermind where everyone gets into this sort of synchronicity with everyone else, and it turns into a really great learning experience. So if you want to move forward with that, please, absolutely. I extend the invitation to join me on the 18th of December. With that, if you want to know any additional information about my company as well, I'm going to type in, let's see, you can get a hold of me at hello@goncls.com. I'll type it in there, if I can spell hello correctly. There you go. Yeah, let me try that again. And Mercury's not even retrograde. This is my joke for when things go wrong. I just tell people Mercury's retrograde. It's not even retrograde. That's better. There you go. If you want any additional information on anything I've done today, hello@goncls.com is the email address. Thank you folks very much. I am incredibly grateful for you joining me today. I always love spreading this information. This has been a passion of mine for many years, is helping people build courses. And especially in this current situation that we're in, online courses are going to be a huge deal. Not just because we have people that have to now move online for training that would have been in person, but because we now have a group of people that are either laid off, their economic situation has changed, and they are sitting at home. They want to learn something, they want to move forward, they want to maybe change careers. And the greatest way to do that for you is to build an online course to guide them through that process. So thank you folks very much. I appreciate it. Have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day.